Awesome. Now, those of you at that table, can you see through me? You can't, well, see, I do have this open head with just this big hole in the head, so that usually works pretty well. Okay. Before we get started, at some of the tables, I put some copies of this paper, so you might want to grab one of those from another table. Last week, we talked about relational culture and how important it is for building community. These are some opportunities for practicing using relational culture, relational relationships, that's a mouthful. Using the skills that we talked about a little bit last week, we're going to talk more about this week, to build power amongst ourselves and to affect change. So these are some options coming up, some things coming up. Tomorrow night, the MACG orientation is on Zoom, and there's a link in the weekly news that you could just click on the link and get right there. So 6:30 to 8, it's a fun orientation, very low stress from your point of view. But it's really good. Even if you think you know what MACG is, I encourage you to come to that. Sunday, April 6th in the afternoon, probably from 2 to 4 p.m. Stay tuned. It may be from 1:30 to 3:30. We're still working that out. At Spirit of Grace, which is like 5 minutes from here or 10 minutes from here, it's where Pastor Robin ended up. Well, yeah, okay, I suppose. It's been 3 years. I'm getting over it. Anyway, that's where Pastor Robin is currently serving, and we are jointly hosting a listening session. And a listening session in organizing terms is when we gather as many people as we can together, and all we ask is that you share your stories. And we'll be doing a little bit of that today. We're trying to take the pulse of the community, especially in Washington County. So we had one of these in Gresham on February 15th, where we met at the Teamsters Hall, the Union Hall. And then we have one here on the west side, and then we're hoping to put one in Clackamas County as well. But we want to see how people see what is weighing on people. Yes. 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 Please bring everybody, especially those who are being affected by the chaos, because we really want to hear their stories. Yeah. I was in a meeting recently with some members of, I didn't even know this existed. There's an Interfaith Alliance on Poverty that is a group of Northeast Portland churches, and they are studying the root causes of poverty in the Portland area. And it was so interesting to me how many people reported that they had never really talked to a poor person. And so they were making all these assumptions about what they needed, but, well, how many poor people have you know, one guy said he was really concerned about the homeless situation. Well, of the people that you talk to who are houseless, what are their stories? Oh, I've never talked to anybody. So we really want to talk to the people who are affected, who are impacted. So yes, please bring, and it's just the Spirit of Grace, very friendly place from a Sunday afternoon. And you won't be asked for anything. There's no offering, there's no sign-up sheet, you were just want to hear your stories. Monday, April 7th is an Advocacy Day. This is when a bunch of us are going to go down to Salem and make our voices heard and have our opinions heard by our legislators. If you want to know more about that, Luann Stahl is right here, and she's sort of spearheading the effort. I don't know if you know that you're spearheading, but I think you're spearheading the effort for St. Andrew.
Your name and Liz's name on that thing too.
I saw that. I only had room for one name on this, so I just... But anyway, we are going to... So this is an effort by the Oregon Synod's Sacred Organizing House to take some action based on what we have been hearing from people in the Synod. So there are 4 bills in particular that I think we're focusing on.
Maybe the 5th one related to climate resilience.
Okay.
But yeah.
4 or 5. You get lunch and you get a t-shirt. So I know, right? What else is there? Yeah, so I signed up yesterday. So please consider coming to that. Wednesday, April... Yes.
This is one of those things, it's like, in the midst of this chaos, for us to be able to have a voice that perhaps to make a difference because we know some of the other things
Right.
that I think it's really important.
So Luann said, for those of you in the back of the room at home, this is, in the midst of the chaos that we're all feeling right now, this is a chance to take action in a positive way and come together as community. And people will be coming from all over the state.
And faith communities from all over the state.
Yeah, faith communities. And is it just faith communities? I didn't think so.
No, it's both.
Okay,
It's both, and it's not just ELCA.
right. I know Rabbi Benjamin, I think, has participated a lot, our friend from Havar Shalom. So it's looking to be a good day. So please join us and talk to Luann or to me about that if you want to join us. Wednesday, April 9th and Thursday, April 10th, those of you who don't have a 9-to-5 job, I would like to cordially invite you to a 2-day foundations training. This is what we used to call Leadership Institute in Public Life, or LIPL, which is an acronym that makes no sense. So now we're calling it foundations training. This is a 2-day training on community organizing that will be led by Lisa Davey, who is a head of Common Good Missoula. She's an excellent trainer. I'm going to go if I can. And that's at St. Andrew Catholic Church, which is just across the river. It's not scary. I can get there. So you can get there too. And then on Sunday, June 8th, the delegate assembly is going to be here at St. Andrew. Yay! We don't have to travel anyplace, from 3 to 5. So please come. As members of St. Andrew, you are all automatically delegates. So please come and hear what MACG is up to. You know, we've been through this year of change, of reinvigorating things. I just found out this morning that we got a grant from our St. Andrew Foundation that will help a lot with bringing us through the finish line with this listening campaign. Come and make your voice heard and help welcome other people to St. Andrew. Okay? All right, here ends the announcements. So, welcome back. Welcome back. Now, as a reminder, here are the goals of the class: to help St. Andrew move toward a relational culture, to introduce practices that assist that process, and to deepen relationships between members of our community. Last week, you got an introduction to relational culture. This week, we're going to be using a relational meeting to build a relational culture. Today, we're going to add to our toolbox. Next week, we're going to refine our skills. We're also going to talk about power next week, and building power and using power. And on the 30th, next week is refining our skills. The 30th is about power, so come on the 30th for power. And then on April 6th, we're going to bring it home and talk specifically about what this means for St. Andrew. So that would be a really good one to wrap it up with. Does anybody have any questions from last week or just in general? Have the price of eggs come down yet? Did it? Okay. Okay. The price of eggs go down. Okay. So.
For eggs from Denmark, actually.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. I'm Pat Christiansen. I didn't introduce myself. I'm sorry. I just assume you all know me. And my co-teacher this week is Larry Bliesner, and he's going to kick us off with one-word feeling.
How are you entering in space today with one word description? I am concerned. I'm a little tired. So then Sonia is going to walk around with the mic, and if you care to choose just one word, how are you? What energy are you bringing into this space today?
Exhausted. Sad.
Tired.
Morning. I am.
Morning. Oh, I thought you said it's morning. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Curious.
It's
I'm
okay.
going to say curious too.
It's okay. Great minds think alike.
Actually hopeful. Mine is curious.
Here.
We'll take it.
stressed about getting to an event on time afterwards.
I can say 2 words, sad and mourning, M-O-U-R, with friends that have died.
Expecting.
Believe it or not, hopeful.
Tired.
Okay, for those of you who are tired, feel free to go out and get coffee if you need it. Okay, thank you. So it gives us an idea. It sounds like we're a little tired today. That's okay, a little anxious, but a little hopeful too. So let's try to see if we can make that hope contagious. So I'm going to give you an example, or we're going to talk about an example of relational culture. I'm the memorial service coordinator here at St. Andrew. I don't know how many of you know that, but I help plan the services, make sure that the candles get lit, even though I usually forget, and that people get where they need to be and all that sort of thing. At almost every memorial service, I hear at least 3 or 4 people say, I didn't know that about that person. Has that ever happened to any of you? And maybe you can raise your hand. And Sonia, you want to run around? Raise your hand and just tell us about a time when you learned something at a memorial service. So I remember going clear back to Chuck McGahee. Remember him? I always struggled to get his name right when I was assisting minister because we said last names in those days. I never knew whether it was McGahee, Magoohey, I never knew. But I found out at his memorial service that he was part of putting the beams in the sanctuary. He was part of the team that did that. It's like, because I always knew him as this little guy with an oxygen tank, you know? I never thought of him as that. I wish I'd known that. How about some of the rest of you? Anybody else here?
Hello. When we attended Dick Snyder's memorial, all the stuff was out on the table, and I saw his fighter helmet. He was a pilot, and he had his helmet there. They had his helmet there. And in my life, in my job, I made, I guess I'm tired, helmets for fighter pilots. That's my job. And so I looked inside it, and it was made by the same basic company that we use, because from way back whenever he flew, they still are doing that, and they work with us to do that. And it's like, I wish I had known that. We could have talked about flying. He was shot down, and it was great stories that I got from Marianne. But yeah, it was, I wish I would have known, because we shared something I didn't know we shared.
I hope you told Marianne.
I did. And I wanted to have the helmet for show and tell at work.
Example. What else? Yeah.
Okay, well, while we're on the subject of Dick Snyder, at his memorial service, I learned that one of his hobbies was cooking. He was apparently a pretty fine chef. Well, one of my hobbies is cooking. I wish I had known that in time. We could have had some wonderful conversations, maybe traded some recipes or something, but it was too late, right? So I wish I had known earlier.
Not too late for you.
Anybody else?
When we went to the memorial for little Phyllis, and they played, Susan played When the Saints Go Marching In, and I thought that was kind of an odd song to have at a memorial, but then I found out her involvement with, it was a band of some
One
sort.
more time around marching band.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so she was involved with that, and they always played that and marched in the Rose Parade, if I remember correctly.
They did, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so I want you to consider how things might have been different for you had you known those things before. You know, those of you who know Steve knows he doesn't just naturally go up to people and start chatting, right? That's not in his wheelhouse. But had he known that Dick Snyder was a chef, that would have given him an opening, and that's another commonality between them. Also, if we're planning a dinner party, gosh, it's good to know who can cook, right? Okay, so Larry is going to talk to you about relational meetings, about one-to-one meetings, and I'm going to be his slide master here.
So on relational meetings, develop understanding and trust. uncover self-interest.
Can I say a little something about
Yeah.
this? Okay, sometimes people get worried about self-interest because it sounds selfish. Pastor Allison, your sermon this morning was perfect. It's not about figuring out what will only serve me. Self-interest is what motivates you. It's what gets you out the door. It's what gets you up in the morning. I was sharing a story with a friend a couple weeks ago about how when I was 14 or 15 years old, I think it was 15, I wanted to work all summer at Pioneer Hybrid Seed Corn Company. That's what kids in my town did. And at that time, girls could only work during the 6-week peak period. We did genetic research with corn. We did pollinating and that sort of thing. But they would only hire girls for the 6-week period in the middle of the summer when they needed the most help. I wanted to work all summer. I was headed to college and I wanted to make some money. So I went to the HR director and I said, I want to work all summer. And she said, girls don't work all summer. And I said, why not? Well, how would they go to the bathroom? Because guys, if it's all men, it's cornfields, hello. And so they just kind of walk away and, do their thing. And the idea of having a girl with them was just astonishing. Well, for the 6 weeks, they brought out porta potties. But they didn't want to pay for the porta potties all summer. And before that 6-week period, during that 6-week period, you pretty much stayed in one field. But the rest of the summer, we went to all different fields and did all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it was a thing. And I wasn't thinking of myself as some sort of trailblazer. I wasn't thinking of myself as, let's hear it for the women. I was thinking, I need a job. My self-interest was, I needed a job. And this was something that I could do. And finally convinced her that the HR director was a member of our church. And so I did, in fact, work all summer.
Good.
And then after that, we had women all summer. And you know what? The guys survived. So that's what I mean by self-interest. It's not selfish, it's self-interest. I was. Well, even then I had a bladder like a camel, so I knew I was going to be a teacher. But it was because we always came in for lunch. So I said, we're out there for 3 hours. I can do 3 hours. It's okay. Anyway, okay.
Okay, and then it's to share stories to understand of why of what they do, and then agitate.
You want me to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. By agitate, I don't mean make you pissed off. Although a little bit of that, maybe one piss. Because people... Yeah, not in the field, yeah. Gosh, I'm really on a roll. I'm on a theme here today. Can you tell I taught middle school for all those years? What we mean by agitate is just get your attention. Raise your blood pressure just a little bit. Make you aware, make you alert. So when you hear a personal story of someone who is suffering, if you know someone who is suffering, I have a very dear friend who has MS and is totally disabled. She is in a wheelchair when she's not in bed. The thought of having her Medicaid cut scares me to death. She can't work. So I'm a little agitated about that. And when I heard the other day that Habitat for Humanity had their funds frozen, and more than that, this was just another blow. Yeah, I know. It's
They're being accused of fraud.
yeah.
Oh,
They're defrauding the government.
oh,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because they took a grant from the EPA during the Biden administration, which is defrauding the government. But anyway, so that agitates me a little bit. So that's what we mean by agitate. We're not trying to make people mad. We're just trying to find out what it is that gets your blood going.
And channel your anger.
And channel, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready
So
for
you
the
do
fishbowl?
this? Yeah. You want to do this one?
Yeah.
Okay. So what it is and isn't.
Okay, relational meaning is intentional, not a social chit-chat. Sometimes that's hard to distinguish.
It is. It is.
Mutual conversation, so it's back and forth. not an interview, so one person talking, one person answering. Focused on stories, not on information.
So you're focusing on the why, not necessarily the what. So what I did as a living, I was a teacher. Why was I a teacher is a much more interesting question. I'll share it with you sometime.
Time limited. Okay, not endless.
Yeah, I have trouble with this one.
And art and practice, so the more you do it, the better you get at it. Not technique.
Yeah. Some helpful tips. Do you want me to do this one? Yeah, I'll do this one. So when you're going to set up a one-to-one with somebody, choose a comfortable place to talk where you can easily hear each other. I like to meet people in coffee shops, but I have to be careful which coffee shop I meet them in. Because there are some coffee shops where you really have to shout to hear them. Well, when I was a child, my dad ran out with my neighbor, and you don't want to do that. So a comfortable place to talk where you could easily hear each other. If you were the one asking for the one-to-one, a rule of thumb, this is, don't take a stopwatch or something, but a good rule of thumb is to try to listen 70% of the time and talk 30% of the time. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule. As you might imagine, I don't do that a lot, but I try. And then ask follow-up questions that include words like, why? How did that affect your future? And what did you learn? Okay, so the easiest way to figure out, to see what this is to show you. So Larry and I are going to do what's called a fishbowl. That fishbowl, yeah. So Larry, and I think we're going to sit over here with the cat. You guys get to be the cat. Yes. Yeah, just don't be catty. So, now this is totally unscripted. We have not rehearsed this or anything. I don't have a piece of paper in front of me. And I've known Larry for a long time, so we won't do a lot of the things that I would do if it was with somebody that I don't know. But anyway, Sonia is going to keep time for us, 10 minutes? 10 minutes. Okay. All right. Larry, thank you for taking time. I appreciate this. We have 10 minutes for this, so you won't have to worry about missing your engagement this afternoon. So I appreciate that very much. Now, I know that you've been a member of St. Andrew for a really long time.
Since we started attending here the fall of 1994.
1994. That's when we started.
Okay.
Yes, that's about the time we started. So what brought you here?
Well, what brought us here is, one, we moved into the neighborhood over here in Cedar Hills. And when I worked at Tektronix, and when Bonnie and I were first married, we lived in Northwest Portland in an apartment. And I took the bus from Northwest Portland over the hill to Beaverton Transit Center, which is up by Cedar Hill Shopping Center now, and then took the bus from there to Tektronix. So the bus always went through Cedar Hills neighborhood. And I thought, well, God, that's a nice place to live. And so fortunately, we were able to get into the neighborhood here. And this is back in 83. 83. Yeah, November of 83. And at the time, we were going to the church in Hollywood, district of Portland, called...
That's a long commute. Oh, you mean Hollywood, Portland, Hollywood. Okay.
Yeah. Called Christian and Missionary Alliance Church. And that's the church we were married in. And prior to that, I had been raised in the Lutheran church. I was baptized in Pullman, Washington in 47 and confirmed at Lake Ridge Lutheran Church, which is in South Seattle, in May of 1961.
Wow.
So,
did you
and
memorize
so I
it?
had a background in
Okay.
Lutheran church.
Okay.
And it was quite a drive out getting over to Hollywood to go to church there. Plus, this church was more fundamentalist. Yeah. And lovely people, but we wanted something a little more liberal.
Yeah. I'm curious how you ended up there in the first place.
Well, when we moved in the neighborhood here, we had our children, and
I mean, the church in Hollywood.
oh, how
Yeah. What drew you to the church in Hollywood?
Bonnie.
Oh, okay. Well, That works? That works? Yeah, okay. But
Yeah.
then, okay, so then you started coming here and you mentioned the children.
Uh-huh.
And I know there's a story there.
And so we were looking for a preschool for our son, Jeremy, who was our youngest child. And St. Andrew had a preschool. And so we we went to the preschool here the fall of '94. And part of the preschool did at the time, they put on a Christmas show. And so they had to do practice for that. And Bonnie came to watch Jeremy participate in the practice. And Harvey Blomberg came down and sat next to her.
Oh.
And we've been here ever since. So
Wow. So what keeps you coming back?
the one thing with the church has developed over the years is it's more inclusive than it was when we first started here. And it had really changed since when I was growing up in the Lutheran church to what it is when we just started here. More open communion. And we just and it was a welcoming congregation and active congregation and social issues and others. So, and then how did you end up coming here?
We ended up coming here because of the organ. We were members of Zion Lutheran downtown. It's a Missouri Synod church.
And
And
that church is in German, was it?
they had one German service occasionally, right?
Did they?
But the one we attended was in English. But
Okay.
but it came time for us to leave that church, and when our son who was like 5 years old, in the back seat of the car, said, "Mommy, why are people shouting at each other in church? I thought people were supposed to be nice in church." That's when we left. And so, but I sang in the choir there when I was there, and the choir director was also a really fine organist. And he called me one day and said, "Pat, they just put this brand new Fritz organ in at St. Andrew Lutheran, and I know the organist, and she's really good." It was Joanne Zinger. She's really good. "You ought to go and check them out." And so I did, and I decided it was someplace that I would be comfortable. And then the next week, Steve and the kids came, and they didn't throw us out. And so it was it was really good. It was really good. Now, you mentioned the inclusiveness. What have you experienced in your life where you've experienced a time when being non-inclusive has
Well, I have a
hurt
story
you?
from when I was younger, much younger, and we lived in Savannah, Georgia for a while, for a year. And this was in the 51, 52, in that time frame. And after that, we moved to Portland. My folks moved to Portland for the first time, my being in Portland. And Mom mentioned to me that we used to take the bus downtown to go shopping downtown and stuff. And I saw blacks get on the bus, 6 years old. I said, "Why don't they sit in the back?"
Oh,
Because that's what they did in Savannah.
yeah.
So,
Wow, and that stuck with you all these years.
all these years, yes.
Did that impact what you're doing now? Because you do a lot of work for social justice.
Right.
You're very
And that-
interested in social justice, immigration,
Yes.
politics, that sort of thing. Did that incident, because obviously you still, I mean, it's been a while since I was 6 years old. I assume
Right.
it's been a couple of years since you were 6 years old.
Yeah.
And yet you remember that.
I do.
How did you feel when you figured out that they could actually sit in the front of the bus?
I thought it was nice. Yeah, why shouldn't they sit in the front of the bus? What's
Yeah.
the problem with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did your mother respond? I'm just curious.
She just sort of, keep quiet. But you see how kids with your child's sermon, how they just say things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, fortunately.
And then you've been active here forever. You and Steve enjoyed his classes, and you've been active with confirmation.
Yeah, I like those middle schoolers. What can I say? Yeah, we really did find a home here.
And
And-
same for us. So.
Yeah, yeah. And Steve is a recovering Missouri Synod Lutheran, so he's continuing his recovery here. This place has been good for him for that. Why do you? Let me see. How do I ask this? Tell me about what brought you to Oregon as an adult. I know you had a life where you lived overseas for quite a while, and where is your heart as far as international politics are concerned? You have 2 minutes.
I'm for peace, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm not.
yeah, well,
Yeah. I'm just curious, because I know you lived overseas for a while.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
when I was in the Army.
Yeah.
And so I was I graduated from high school in California, La Habra High School, Orange County, California, June of '65. It's our 60th anniversary coming up.
Wow.
And I went to Cal State Fullerton my first year of college, and I took a chemistry class which I positively totally hated and dropped it. And by doing that, my draft board was in Pasadena, California, and I went from 4A to 1A draft. So I had to decide what I was going to do. And I decided, well, if I'm going to be drafted, for some reason I learned about Army Language School at Defense Language Institute in Monterey. I said, well, that'd be a great place to go. And so that's what I did. And I had to take a aptitude test for that, but I had 2 years of Latin in high school, and the aptitude test was a make-believe language, but it was like decline nouns and conjugate verbs and different, and I just aced it. So I went to language school at Monterey. And then I was also trained in traffic analysis, which is signal intelligence, traffic analysis, National Security Agency, top secret clearance. And that job could be used globally. Never did use Serbo-Croatian in the Army, but they'd like to have certain linguists on hand in case they ever needed some. And so I was going to spend 2.5 years in Bad Aibling, West Germany, which is between Munich and Salzburg, in the edge of the Bavarian Alps. Well, I was there 3.5 months and got levied to Vietnam. So,
wow. So you didn't use your Serbo-Croatian language in Vietnam either?
no.
What a surprise.
And so I didn't, but anyhow, in the meantime, my father had become a city engineer in Newburgh. And so when I went and got out of the Army, I could either claim domestic in California, Oregon, or Washington. When I joined the Army, I used my sister's address. And so then I heard about Portland State having a program in Yugoslavia, Serbo-Croatian, 9-month study abroad. And so I went to Portland State, and then I've been in Portland ever since. And spent 9 months in Yugoslavia studying abroad.
So when you hear news of the world, of the contemporary world, from that part of the world, does it take you back to when you lived there? And do you feel like you have a unique perspective?
Yes. I mean, we have, starting with the COVID Zoom meetings, I kept contact with friends that were in my group with me in Zagreb, and we started Zoom meetings.
Wow.
And now we still have them. So
That's awesome.
and from people all over the country and the world. So
Wow. Wow, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank
I
you.
appreciate your time. I appreciate your willingness to tell your story, and I'll see you at church.
okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. So, you're going to go for the reaction for the foot. Okay.
So what's your reactions to the one-to-one?
And can you get the mic?
I thought it was very interesting. Like I wanted to hear more of the stories of why certain things happened. I had so many questions and wanted to hear more stories. It was captivating.
I thought that one-to-ones were supposed to be more of a 50-50. You said 70-30, but we didn't hear very much from Pat.
Good, point taken. Yeah, this was meant to be like the first half of the one-to-one. Sorry, I didn't make that clear. Because one-to-ones are usually like 30 minutes. Yeah. But point taken. Larry did try, and he tried, and I didn't take the bait. I was so fascinated with his story that I didn't want to share mine. Anybody else notice anything?
Sorry.
We were in a supper club with Larry and Bonnie for months and months, and I don't know why he didn't tell us those stories.
You never spoke in Czech? Yeah.
It's funny.
And that's why you do it.
Yeah, it is, yes.
He's an introvert.
What?
He's an introvert.
Yeah.
Everybody else was talking, probably.
I noticed how you were asking for stories, but then also open up the possibility to make meaning of the stories a little bit. Like how does that connect with how like your choices today? How does that connect to your passion today? How does it influence your current view of that part of the world and politics there? So I saw you kind of trying to make connections to the impact that those stories have on him.
I would just add, what I noticed is that, to build on what Pastor Allison said, that it was done very naturally. Like, it didn't feel like a interview or a kind of stilted conversation, but it felt natural.
One of the interesting things about sharing your own story is that it encourages or can encourage the other person to share. And I think that's an important piece.
Okay, so the next question is, can you see yourself doing that? We both came out unscathed, right? Right? Okay. All right, so an important part of this practice, and this is one that I'm not very good at, but I'm trying to get better, is after a one-to-one, take a few minutes to write some notes. So just what we just did. Not during the one-to-one, because then it makes somebody feel like they're being interviewed, right? But afterwards, I sit in my car, at least think through some of those questions. What did you learn about this person? What did this person get excited about? What would you still like to know? So next time. So what notes would you take from this interaction? So what did you learn about Larry? What does Larry get excited about? And what would you still like to know?
This is just me, but I was at Cal State Fullerton. And so I just love to talk to you about Cal State Fullerton.
Sure. Kevin Costner? Wow.
We're in good company.
Yeah.
He's well-traveled, and he still loves it, and so do I.
Anything else? Okay. Well, the way this works is practice. I can see the anxiety level going up in the room. It's okay. Pair up with somebody you don't know well. Now, we all kind of know each other here, but try to find somebody who you don't know well. Decide for this exercise, this is going to be a shortened one again, decide who will be the listener and who will be the talker, and then you're going to be switching roles. Your prompt is what brought you to St. Andrew? Why do you stay at St. Andrew? And then I want you to reverse roles. So this is a mini practice within a practice. So you're going to have 10 minutes. So 5 minutes for each of you to be the listener and then the talker. And take mental notes while you're talking. Any questions? I'll leave the prompts up there. So find a place, and you can move around the room. So you will have until, let's see, it's 11:49. Actually, we'll give you till 11:50. Right. Okay, one important part of organizing is evaluation. So after every action, we always do an evaluation. So this is, because that's how we learn. That's how we learn things. So Larry's going to take you
Yeah.
through, how did that go for you?
Oh, here. Well, I need that.
Oh, in a minute, yeah.
In a minute, yes.
Okay.
What did you learn about this person? What does this person get excited about? And what would you still like to know? And there's probably a lot.
Now, before we start sharing, please understand your story is your story to tell. So please don't say, I learned that so-and-so was an axe murderer and just got out of jail. Okay? So please share your story. But if there is something that the person you spoke with gives you permission to say, he's a chef, he likes to cook, that's pretty innocuous, that's okay. So if you were going to go out in your car after the one-to-one and take notes, what would you write down? What did you learn? What does this person get excited about? And what would you still like to know? Anybody?
She is holding it out to me, but
I'm holding it up to you.
But it's okay. It's always okay to say, no, thank you.
I would like to know more of the 10 minutes is not long enough, Pat.
I know.
I want more of the story of your move from California to Oregon, the RIC, St. Andrew becoming RIC, and how Jan was such a huge part of making that happen here, and the importance of that for you, for the two of you, and Robin's involvement in all of that. And yeah, I want more of that story. I want more details, because I got 1.5 minutes of details of that. I want the real juicy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think on Saturday, when this conversation is going to be continued on Saturday. Yeah.
Nice.
Anybody else can share in general terms?
I was interested in learning about Bonnie's participation in a number of different faiths growing up, even Jewish and fundamentalist and all that. And think she was interested in knowing why our Presbyterian minister left the Presbyterian Church because he didn't want to be as liberal and accepting as the denomination as a whole. And I'd like to know more about why she became a teacher.
Next conversation, Pastor Allison.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we talked a little bit about how Pam came to be part of the St. Andrew community, and she talked about she mentioned having like sort of some priorities of goals and convictions and beliefs, and so she was finding a place that resonated with that. And so I didn't get to really find out exactly what those goals or convictions or beliefs were that she was kind of hoping to find. And then I could have also asked how those particular convictions were formed, like what led to those beliefs within her.
Nice.
Well, one of the things I learned is how interested Ted and Fran were, when they were looking for a church, were interested in a good Christian education program. And I would like to have explored that a little more, about, they found it, but what did they like about it?
Okay. Well, it sounds like you all wanted more time. It's always interesting to me when I introduce this and I look at there's my note, sorry. And I look at the faces and they go, 10 minutes. What am I going to talk about 10 minutes? Okay, so now that you have a taste of it, we have a challenge for you. This is not homework. This is not a pass-fail class. This is a challenge, and I hope you will accept it. Sometime between now and next week, have a 30 to 45-minute one-to-one relational meeting with someone from St. Andrew. Now, it could be with somebody from this class, if you want to be a little bit more comfortable, because you all know what a one-to-one is. It could be somebody that you think you know really well, but would just like to have some time. The prompts that I'm suggesting, although if you have something else in mind, you can do that too. What brought you to St. Andrew, and why do you keep coming back? So sometime between now and next week, have a 30 to 45 minute one-to-one relational meeting. These can be done on Zoom. They can be done in person. We recommend that you don't try to do this over the phone. Body language is so important, energy is so important. So it can be someone that you're in a meeting with, and you can say, hey, can you stick around for 30 minutes afterwards or something? Or somebody that you're kind of curious about. Okay, does that feel doable? Okay, some of you are saying, oh yeah, no problem. Some of you are saying, I'm not going to talk to anybody. And it's probably best if you don't talk to your spouse, but that works too. You know, practice is practice. And then, okay. So does anybody have any questions? So we're going to get out a few minutes early today because I know some folks have some things to do. Any questions? Can I do what I used to do with my middle school kids and do a thumbs up if this felt good, thumbs middle if it's and thumbs down if I'm never coming back? Just, okay, good, thank you. All right, go in peace. Come back next week. Larry and I are team teaching again next week, so come back next week for more.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Here's this.